How's it going, everyone? How do you feel about eliminating problems? I'm going to say at this point, Keichi's determined to become... What do you call people who take out the trash? Like, waste disposal? The trash man? We want to take out the trash today. So, yeah, after kind of breaking through, by basically becoming part of the... basically, it's pretty clear it's supposed to be the curse. Basically falling into the curse himself, he's determined to take upon himself what he feels is the most necessary thing to happen. He's going about it really methodically. He's going to try and do it without getting caught, because he doesn't want to take himself away from Satoko. But he wants to do it, and he's determined to do it regardless of the consequences. So now he's just trying to formulate a plan. He talked to his mom about how do you get the perfect crime, and she kind of gave him an example. She said, well, perfect crime doesn't have a story because nobody finds out. It's like nobody would know. So you can't write or formulate a perfect crime, because if it truly is a perfect crime, no one would ever know how it happened, and thus it would never get discovered. Which is a very interesting kind of thought experiment about it all, which is the thrill of a mystery is ultimately the discovery of what actually happened, right? That's what makes a mystery so compelling. If your mystery just were eternally a mystery and you never got any satisfactory answers, it'd be really hollow and empty, right? But that's interesting because I think I mentioned it last time, but the dichotomy there is really odd, because this series as a story might give us some instances of answers and clues, but it still leaves so much left unsaid. It will eventually answer them, but for the moment, I still find the story really compelling and interesting. Granted, I feel like if the game suddenly stopped and I never got any more chapters before it revealed the answers, that would be really dissatisfactory. That would be very unfun and unpleasant. So maybe that it's ultimately right. A good story ultimately has an answer, but we'll get to that. So he's going out. He's going to make a plan, and we'll see. I have no idea if it's going to happen in this episode or not, but I think it is technically the day of Watanagashi or the day before. So, yeah, we should see a plan coming up pretty soon. After having a talk with his mom, Keiichi's going to go out and have a little think. I think he's basically going to come out with a basic outline, so that's what we're doing today. Anyway, let's buckle up and get going, shall we? Where I'd like to kill him, how I'd do it, what time, and how to dispose of the corpse. If I just had those 4 things, I could get a good plan going. I was so surprised at how little there was to decide that I shivered. I'd been completely prepared to build this humongous plan over a really long period of time. But if I could just get these things in order, I could put it into motion. Today was Saturday. I would have to kill him on the night of Watanagashi, so as long as I was standing in for Oyashiro-sama, I only had 24 hours remaining. Satoko, just hang on for 24 more hours. I can't even imagine having to suffer through even more, but please hold out a little longer. I know you can't even last another second, I know that. But please just hold out. Your Nini will save you for sure. Oh gosh. God, it's so crazy being on this side of it, which I love. I love it so much. It's very creepy. And it's great. It's an impressive feat to get the game to cheer for you to do terrible, terrible things. Outside, it was still early enough for the cicadas to be crying. Early afternoon. Evening was still a long way off. I looked at the sky. At some point, it had gotten cloudy. Come to think of it, as I left the house, I heard on the TV that the weather forecast is calling for a chance of rain on Sunday. What is this music? Do you hear that? It's really subtle, but it just kind of pops through occasionally. I don't think I've heard this track before. The sky was the color of lead. If I heard a little bit of thunder, I'd definitely have expected a sudden evening shower. My first destination was school. Before explaining why I was going there, I need to explain the method by killing the man I had decided upon. I decided the most suitable death, the one I needed to give him, was the same as last year's curse. He's going for the baseball bat again. Ironically, Satoshi's. The same as the punishment their aunt had received, being beaten to death. Wouldn't beating him to death by something somewhat unreliable? You may think that stabbing him with a blade would be more reliable, but this was something I had chosen after a lot of thought. You just need to think realistically. The law, it prohibited carrying any blades longer than 10 centimeters, I think. So the blades available to me, even the longest ones, are still limited to things shorter than a ruler. You can probably understand how tricky it would be with such a short reach to go up against an opponent that might fight back. In that case, a weapon with more reach, like a staff, would be far more advantageous. It might not be quite as innately lethal, but since you could just keep hitting the guy until you killed him, the end result was the same. So what's a staff-like deadlier weapon, terrifyingly powerful, and also eminently portable? By this point, you should immediately think of a metal baseball bat. I don't need to explain how terrifying a metal baseball bat can be as a weapon. Of special note is the fact that you can carry one around in broad daylight and not be thought of as suspicious. Just those 2 points would have been enough to choose a metal bat for my weapon. But there was one more reason for choosing a metal bat in particular. I will speak about that later. God, he's so creepy right now. After school on Saturday, my classmates are still having fun playing in the schoolyard. I could show up there and it would all be the same as always, and nobody would think I'm suspicious. Getting my hands on the weapon without looking suspicious was actually a factor I couldn't ignore. I didn't normally play baseball, so if I went to a sports store looking for a metal bat, it would definitely be suspicious. Can't let there be a beginning to that story, so I need to be really careful even about that. I love that. Again, that's what she said. Like the best crime has no beginning, because the story could never be pieced together. That left school. And actually, it's interesting. So, okay, I actually something about that. So, there can't be a beginning to the story, so I need to be really careful about that. This kind of goes into the whole thing, like if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? Like, can a story begin if there's nobody around to witness it? And the answer is the same for both, which is it's immaterial. It literally doesn't matter. Now, we know that logically, a tree by itself in the forest with nobody around to observe it, when it falls, makes a sound. You just can't prove that. But it also doesn't matter, because if you're not proving it, then it's immaterial. It didn't happen because it didn't matter, not because it didn't happen. So his idea here basically is that if there's no way to piece together where he was or what he was doing, where the bat came from or how he got it, and when the murder happened and why it happened, if there's no way to connect those threads, then essentially it didn't happen. It's a really interesting philosophy. Again, if a tree falls, it doesn't make a sound. That left school. At a location at which my appearance wouldn't be suspicious, I would acquire the weapon. I checked inside the classroom through the window, but of course there was nobody there. The only students who would stay in there were me and others when doing club activities. Without us, the classroom after school is just an empty, unused room. Without glancing around nervously, as if I'd just gotten something I'd forgotten, casually went to the entrance. It looked like the teacher was busy with paperwork in the teacher's lounge. I didn't see her in the hallway. Naturally, yet quietly as a shadow, I entered the classroom. The downside, though, is that he is not suspicious now, but if the police start asking questions, they might relate that he was spotted at school that day for a little bit. And if he's spotted with the baseball bat, somebody might be able to drop that casually. They wouldn't think anything of it, but the police would, because the types of injuries would likely be traceable unless the body is disposed of so well that it can't be found. I can't believe I'm talking about like this, like I'm seriously considering how you would do this. The empty room was full of a strange, stagnant air that you couldn't feel normally. An empty classroom with nobody here. Maybe while no one was around, the desks creaked about on their own, licking the floors clean of dirt. If I suddenly stepped on a place like that, would the desks in their surprise fly at me, crush my bones, and eat me alive? That's not normal. Yeah, that's not normal thinking, dude. I felt regret at wasting valuable thinking time on stupid delusions. The students' lockers were lined up in the back of the classroom. The one I was looking for wasn't my own. It was a forbidden locker. The one I'd accidentally discovered one day. If one person had one locker, then why would only Satoko have two? I'd made a fuss about it once. After that, I learned it was Satoshi's locker. It had the same last name as her. But of course, even though it was a locker from a student no longer here, looking inside, it was still a shameless act. But one time, I let my curiosity get the better of me and took a peek inside. Inside was an average and worthless at the time. I hadn't been interested, so until now I'd forgotten what had been in it. But now I had, dare I say, awakened. I remembered the thing that had been there. Hello, my old friend. Scrape. I opened the locker and a stench of mold and sweat wafted out like a gym storehouse that hadn't been cleaned in weeks. My face puckered up at the stench, but I looked for it. Yes. Satoshi was on the coach's baseball team. Inside the locker was a Hinamizawa fighter's uniform, and it? The one Satoshi used, the metal bat. Yes. This was the reason I wanted to choose this bat. This murder would be carried out by me, but this wasn't originally my role, it was Satoshi's. Oh, that's what they're gonna imply. He was carrying around the bat. We thought in the first part he was carrying around the bat because he was worried he was about to be eliminated by the Watanagashi, and then he was vanished, right? But it looks like the reality was more likely he was contemplating doing what we're doing now, but maybe he lost his nerve and left, or he was whisked away by the curse. You know, like the Watanagashi curse for some reason. I hear those chimes again. Those are like, I'm pretty sure those are meant to be like the shrine chimes, like the ceremonial chimes, which I'm guessing is the implication of like this is supposed to be Oyashiro-sama's influence now affecting him directly. But I would stand in for him and call myself Satoshi's Nini, Satoko's Nini. I was one of the rules for standing in for him. I reached for the metal bat and grasped it firmly. The idea is also interesting too, because like, what if he also wore the uniform and then took it off and left it there? Because they don't have DNA matching, right? So it's like Satoshi's bat and Satoshi's outfit. That could be interesting, because then it could imply that it was Satoshi who came in to save her and then left, and that could be like the story that like the police go with, is that Satoshi did it, not Keichii. Oh, that's I actually kind of like that. Narratively, I like that. It's still creepy, but I like it. I reached for the metal bat and grasped it firmly. It was light, and yet its tip had enough heft in it, enough to easily imagine the horror if I brought it down with all my might. Satoshi, I'll give you one last chance to save your sister. Lend me your strength. You're a coward, but I'll stand in for you. So if you still care even a little bit about her, you will lend me your strength. There's no more suitable weapon in the world for putting that man to death than your bat. Now I just needed to figure out where to hide it. Tomorrow before the act, I would just stop by the school and grab it. Because I couldn't ignore the possibility someone would see me bringing it home and think it was strange. But if I left it here, there wouldn't be a problem. Plus tomorrow was Sunday. Not only that, but it was the day of the biggest festival in the whole village. Nobody would be coming to school. I left out the entrance and went over to the construction vehicle parked nearby. We'd been warned by our teacher not to touch it just for laughs, so none of the kids would come near the vehicle either. They wouldn't, because if she found out they touched it, they'd be in huge trouble. I quietly hid it in the shadow of the vehicle. The chances of someone operating the vehicle tomorrow were slim to none. Because tomorrow was Sunday, government workers had the day off, and from what the classmates had said, the thing had been left here for years now. Machines that haven't moved in years, you couldn't just start them up again. So I was almost definitely fine in this case. The sunlight was piercingly hot and my head grew faint for a moment. Had the heat been this harsh for the entire day? A moment of dull thought like this was the moment of carelessness. I gave myself a couple hits on the head, then turned around warily. Okay. Next, how to dispose of the corpse. The bat is in place. Weapon acquired. Disposing of the corpse. The ultimate way not to create at the beginning was to not leave the corpse to be found. It was even more important than killing him. It's also the hardest part, honestly. Thinking on it vaguely, the first thing that came to mind was the swamp. Onikakushi, the dreadful bottomless swamp revered even now, that appeared on in the legends of Onikakushi village. Yeah, the swamp called Onikakushi was here first, and the village took its name and became Onikakushi village. In other words, the swamp was the origin of Onikakushi village. No one, no matter who it was, would float back to the surface of this bottomless swamp. Everyone would be swallowed down to the land of demons below the earth. That was how the stories went. If I was trying to copy Oyashiro-sama's curse, then I felt that theory demanded I discard the remains and the weapon into the swamp. But they may have said it's bottomless, but they didn't actually know. And people say large creatures like humans produce a lot of gas when they rot, granting a lot of buoyancy. It was why using fairly heavy objects to hold people down didn't work. Come to think of it, with the curse this year before last, Rika-chan's mother drowned herself in this swamp. And the criminal behind the dismemberment that went missing a year of the first curse too. It was rumored he tried to discard the body in the swamp and accidentally drowned in it. Never had the corpse come, I'd never heard of the corpse coming back up for them finding it. Then shouldn't I choose to discard the corpse there too? I could discard the weapon there. And then, for example, if her uncle came out of the motorcycle and attacked, it would be convenient to get rid of the bike too. I knew that Satoko's uncle generally used a motorcycle for transportation. But as for the corpse, after a lot of worrying, I decided not to discard the corpse in the swamp. The drowning, suicide, and an accident were both rumors. Nobody knew if they'd actually happened. There were no lack of false rumors about the drowning suicide anyway, and it was possible the murderer hadn't drowned there and was still on the run. That meant no one had ever confirmed a corpse being dropped in there and then not coming back. Then what would I do with the body? I thought it might be interesting to go with the first incident, cut into pieces and hide him, but the preparation and work for dismembering a human body would be difficult given the amount of time I had, and you've got physical, it's a lot of mass. With that out of the question, I arrived at the conclusion to go with the more orthodox method of burying the body. Then where would I bury it was the question related to where I would kill him. Of course, I wanted to keep my time and proximity to the body at a minimum. With that in mind, I went to dig a hole to dump the body in beforehand and make the location and the act of the hole close together. The choice of where to plan the crime, that I needed to be absolutely careful and thorough with. Had to be somewhere nobody would witness it, a place with hiding places for a sneak attack. I could dig a hole for the body right there. I go over the possibilities in my head for various destinations her uncle would head to from Satoko's house. I imagined a map of the area in my head, then I found a place that fulfilled the conditions so easily it was almost unbelievable. What? Is it going to be like the garbage pit? A bit of back road that went through the woods. Didn't think her uncle would go deeper into the mountains than Higurashi on a whim. If he was going somewhere, he'd pass through these woods first. And nobody used this back way unless they had something to do at Satoko's house or one or two other places. This path was fantastically ideal as few people used it. I would wait for him in these woods. Would an ambush actually be possible? I went to the trees and tried to really hiding myself in a few places. It was extremely quiet. My senses could be sharpened here to their maximum amount. I didn't know when he'd come, but I'd wait right here for Satoko's uncle. I actually had some trouble coming to that decision. The question arose of whether I should somehow call the man out. Was there a risk I'd be taking by luring him here? That man, Satoko, did all the shopping and errands. He seldom left on his own business. He wouldn't leave unless I worked out a plan to force him to, would he? That was the question. Tomorrow was Watanagashi festival. Would he go out for the festival or would he stay inside? If he stayed inside, how would I drag him out of his house? That's right. Wouldn't he make Satoko go to the festival? Satoko would go to the festival. Meanwhile, I would call the man. This is the Okinomiya police station. We have the young lady from your house. Could you come pick her up immediately? It didn't even have to be the police. This is the clinic. The young lady from your house has been injured. Please come pick her up. Yes, that would work too. If I claimed to be the police or the hospital, told him to come, and he'd hurry and hung up on him, he'd rush there to try and find out what was going on, wouldn't he? And just the other day, he was visited by a probation officer. He wouldn't suddenly grumble about having to get his niece to not go. He would look like a child neglect. The trouble here is going to be, you sound like a kid. How are you supposed to convince him you're an adult? The man had no skills. The man had no skills useful around the house. Satoko, his slave, was an essential part of his daily life. Conclusion? If he went out to the festival, I'd attack him here on his way there or back. If he didn't, I'd lure him out by phone. If luring him out by phone was my first step, I needed to make sure Satoko would go to the festival, leaving the house. It would be convenient if I could make Mion take Satoko to the festival. She said her aunt was a distant welfare officer. In other words, an ally to the probation office. If I somehow incited Mion to take Satoko to the festival with her, well, being who she was, she'd use that fact to get her there. Satoko could just take a break and have fun at the festival with everybody. She should have a good time, reminisce on our former peaceful days, and when she went home, everything would be over. Yeah, that would be the best outcome. With that decided, I needed to dig a hole somewhere in the woods to hide the body. So it wouldn't stand out, so it wouldn't be found. Someplace nobody would see me while I was completely exposed as I buried the corpse. I had waited to be this close to the scene of a crime, but it naturally grew further away. Deep in the bosom of the Black Forest, the voices of the Higurashi were the only sounds here, informing me that people shouldn't indiscreetly set foot in this place. Digging a hole so many tree roots crawling around on the ground would be far more difficult than I had envisioned. I snuck a gardening spade out here in my bag, but that wouldn't be enough. Oh, definitely not. Especially because the big trouble with this would be, if you bury it too shallowly, it'll get dug up by animals. You need to dig it pretty deep. Still, as I looked into various approaches, I managed to find a place I could dig into. Tomorrow I'd bring a real shovel from the storeroom at home. I'd managed with that. I wonder how big a hole would have to be to fit a human all the way into it. I'd probably have to dig pretty deep down. But if a slip shot in these efforts, it'd lead to the beginning occurring. I absolutely couldn't allow that. Use any amount of time you need to. I mustn't spare any effort to utterly erase him. I glanced at my wristwatch. It was a little past 6. This was probably all I was going to get done here for today. I really wanted to dig the hole in advance tonight, even if it got dark out, but Mom would be upset if I stayed out that late. It wouldn't be good to come off as suspicious to my parents. I needed to go back home and give Mion a call soon. I needed to get her to promise Satoko to take her by tonight. After that, today would be done. Done. Would it be though? Was this really everything I could do to prepare her right now? I decided where to kill him. Decide how to kill him. Decide, of course, how to dispose of the body. I didn't decide on a time, but I'd play that out by ear. I didn't have a way to decide that. Was that really all? Was this really all right? Have I overlooked anything? Would this really go how I planned? After all this, worry started welling up one after another. It was only natural I'd be anxious. This would be the first and last big job of my lifetime. I could not allow failure. I had no experience, and this was my first time. I didn't have the know-how, the knack, so it was only natural I'd be anxious. The dark clouds of unease told me doing nothing would be the easiest way, a truly pathetic suggestion this late in the game. Have you forgotten how miserable Satoko looked? From the outside, it may have looked like I was resolute, but deep in my heart, my knees were shaking loudly. I've never actually won a single fight to my satisfaction. Could I really kill someone? I may have been planning an ambush, but my enemy was larger and far older than me. He had a scary face, and he looked like he was well accustomed to fighting. Could I have... All the pieces before and after the murder were perfectly planned. But was the actual murder the most important part, what unsettled me the most? All my preparation, all my perfectly concealed machinations, if I didn't successfully murder him, they amounted to nothing. Dang it. After coming this far, you're pathetic, Keichii Maribara. If you start to have these kinds of second thoughts, your ulterior motive will be obvious. Let's go home. Go home and calm your mind. Tomorrow will be the juncture of your life, the likes of which graduation, employment, marriage, and childbirth couldn't hold a candle to. The day of murder. To kill someone. For someone else's sake. With that day behind us, we would take it back again. Those mild, spring-like days we never thought would stop. Those safe, peaceful, fun times. I pedaled my bike harder to get back home. I felt somehow unsteady, like my body and soul weren't in alignment. A subtle shift between where the tips of my hands and feet really were and where I felt them to be. My vision was a little distant and narrow, as if the great barrier I risked my future life on had nothing to do with me. An unreal sensation. How could I put it? Everything was so far away. Fine. Feel your unease permeate you, Keichii Maribara. If that will turn your timidity into meticulousness, I'll allow you to act with greater caution. Then it's actually an important emotion to feel. This feeling I had never went away that night. I feel like this isn't gonna go well. It was the first time I'd been called to calling Mion's house. I searched for her number in the phone book the school gave me, then dialed a short phone number, the kind unique to remote places. Excuse me. It was around dinner time. She would probably be home. But just as I started to think nobody would respond, somebody finally picked up the receiver.
はい、その時です。
あ、夜分遅くにすみません。
Interesting. Do you hear this? It sounds like we're listening to them both on the phone. Like normally a conversation like this, you'd hear like Keichii talking normally because we're in the room with him and hear Mion's voice on the phone. But we're hearing both their voices over the phone. Like we're listening in to the conversation on the other line.
ミオンか。
どちら様です？
俺だよ、ケイチだ。
ああ、ケイちゃんか。何こんな時間に。
She seemed to be in a weirdly good mood, and she drew her syllables out. Right, it's the night before tomorrow's festival. She's probably with her family having some drinks.
悪いな、こんな時間に。今、時間は大丈夫か？
うん。何？
サトコのことなんだけど。
I heard her draw in a small breath on the other end.
サトコ、大変なことになっちゃったね。
Yeah, I know.
大丈夫かな？
The scent of sake had completely disappeared from her voice.
大丈夫なわけないだろう。お前も見ただろ、あれ。あんな、擦り切れるまでにいじめ抜かれて。
Yeah, here we go.
俺たちはあんなになるまで、ずっと見捨ててきた。
見捨ててたわけじゃないよ。みんな助けようとして必死に考えてたよ。
でも結局何も思いつかなかったし、サトコを救えたわけじゃないだろ。
See, it's weird how it's like phone version and not phone version.
結局あんなになるまで俺たちは何もできなかった。
そうだね。私は結局見てただけかも。
だからさ、せめて一夜くらい遊ばせてやろうじゃないか。
え？遊ばせるって？
あいつもいろいろと参ってるの。だからさ、明日の渡流しのお祭りにあいつを連れて行ってやってほしいんだ。
それはどうして？
どうしてって、せめて祭りの夜くらい息抜きさせてやりたいじゃないか。たとえ一夜でもあの意地悪なおじの元から離れられるなら、短い時間でもきっとサトコは喜ぶ。
だからどうして？
どうしてって何がだよ。
I was having a little difficulty understanding why Mio was asking me.
どうして？ケイちゃんが連れて行ってあげないの？私に頼まなきゃならないの？
Oh yeah, she's probably suspicious of like, what are you gonna do? Mion was persistent about odd things. No, maybe it'd be better to say that she was sharp.
俺、実はちょっと明日は用事があってさ。
No, Keichii, you should be using the excuse of how she responded to you. She clearly had a very adverse reaction, and that him being a guy might have been a major part of that reaction. And maybe he could be like, look, I think I'll try, but I got a family thing, so I'm going to have to come in late anyway. And plus, maybe based on her reaction, she might have more fun if it was just girls.
祭りには行けない。だからサトコ、ミオンが連れて行ってやってほしい。
用事って？
大した用事じゃないんだ。多分すぐに片付くと思うけど、ひょっとすると明日は合流できないかもしれない。
Yeah, she's got it nailed though. She knows exactly what he's talking about.
なあ、ミオン、明日の夜だけサトコ頼めないか。
Mion took a long time to give her a reply. I got the feeling that Mion might have been acting weird for a while now. Like she was flustered by emotions or something.
いや。
Huh? Was that a sob? Mion, are you crying?
私、嫌だって言ったじゃない。私なんかに押し付けられても困るって。
別に押し付けるつもりなんかないよ。
That's not the response I was expecting either. That's weird.
明日の夜だけでいいんだ。
嘘だったじゃない。
What? Mion, what's she talking about?
渡流しの夜だけって言って結局ずっとだった。
Oh. I think this might be Shion. I think this was Shion, and I think Satoshi said the same thing. Yeah, that's what's happening. I think this is Shion, and I think he told her, hey, take Satoko to Watanagashi just for the evening. I can't make it myself. And then he vanished. You know what? I think it's actually the same thing. If you actually think about that. Like, of course. Like, why didn't I think about this? His aunt, like, the aunt died and the uncle fled, right? Brutally beaten, and then Satoshi vanishes. I think he did run away because I think he killed her. I think his aunt was the worst of the abusers, and he thought maybe that would spare her, but like the uncle could still take care of her because he wouldn't be as bad. Turns out he was wrong about that, but that's what happened. And this is Shion we're talking to, not Mion, which I did think sounded like a little. Like if that's the case, this is basically repeating history of when Shion felt like he abandoned her and and everybody.
嘘つき。でもおあいこかな。私全然あなたとの約束。あの子はずっとほったらかしだしね。
I had no idea what to say to that. Mion was clearly now talking to someone other than me. I didn't know who. All I could do was listen to her in a daze.
あれからずっと帰ってこないのに、あの子のことをもう一度押し付けるためだけに、本当にずるい人。ねえ、あなた、サトシ君、なんでしょう。
ミオン、さっきから何の話だ?
It's not Mion, it's Shion. When I said her name, whatever spells on Mion was released.
ごめん、なんでもないの。ちょっと、ケイちゃんの今の電話にそっくりな電話を昔受けたことがあって。
それ、ひょっとしてサトシか?
Mion didn't answer. All I could hear were her sobs coming through the receiver.
ごめんね。ちょっと私、寝ぼけてるみたい。変なとこで感情的になっちゃった。ごめんね。焦ったでしょ。
I had no idea how it happened, but I was pretty sure that last year on this very day, Satoshi had called Mion and told her to bring Satoko to the festival. And when she asked why he needed her to do it, he replied the same way I just did.
サトシ、祭りに行かなかったんだな。
うん。用事があるから自分は行けないって言って、代わりに私にサトコを祭りに連れて行ってくれって。
その時、サトシも言ったんだな。サトコを頼むって。
うん、言ったよ。明日の夜だけ頼むってね。ケイちゃんの言い方があまりにもよく似てたんでちょっと思い出して取り乱しちゃった。
I didn't expect this. Satoshi had given her the exact same phone call 1 year ago today. After that, Mion said more. That he was lying. That he told her it would be for only one night of the festival.
そうだったな。サトシはその数日後に消えた。
Disappeared might have been a rather vague way to put it. Whether he ran away or not, Satoshi left, abandoning Satoko.
そう。天候でもなく、家出でもなく、消えたの。
And then an idea far more indistinct and than even fog crossed my mind. Satoshi made exactly the same phone call as me last year. Why would Satoshi make the exact same call? If, in the truest sense, he really made the exact same phone call as I am right now, then the incident where his aunt was beaten to death? Could it? Yeah.
サトシだ。
え？何が？
Last year, Satoshi had been constantly abused by her uncle's wife, their aunt too. Her aunt abused her the most, and on that night, the name of the Oyashiro-sama's curse, she was taken from this world. If I thought about it, everything made perfect sense, didn't it?
去年、サトコのおばが殴り殺されたじゃないか。
It's probably with the same freaking bat!
あれ、サトシってことは考えられないか?
No, but that would mean... But then Satoshi, he was a coward who abandoned Satoko to run away, wasn't he? How could Satoshi resolve himself to kill a person to save Satoko? It was unthinkable.
私も実はそれを疑ったことがある。サトシには悪いけど。
A few days later, he disappeared on Satoko's birthday. When I first heard it, I flew into a rage. What a cruel day to have run away on. But now that I thought about it like this, the story changed completely. Satoshi had probably been even less calm than I was now. He was her big brother, related by blood, watching his little sister be abused day in and day out. Maybe that's why he couldn't keep calm. And that's why the corpse of their aunt beaten to death was so easily discovered. Satoshi lost himself in his anger and hadn't hidden the corpse. He'd permitted the beginning to occur. And the police conducted a full-blown investigation. It was easy to imagine they wouldn't take long to pin down Satoshi as the culprit. Satoshi, he wished to return to peaceful days with Satoko. He thought he'd cheat for a time. He had been steadily driven into a corner. And then he wanted to at least hold out until Satoko's birthday, but finally they nailed him. At the time, Satoshi had been carrying the savings he'd amassed by Satoko to buy Satoko a giant stuffed animal for a birthday present. He would buy the stuffed animal as a gift to her, then get caught. Or he could use the money to disappear. That were the choices they had been forced to make. And he decided not to make Satoko the sister of a murderer. If that were the case, that must have been an unspeakably bitter decision. All that money he'd saved waiting to see Satoko happy, he'd used it to make her sad. And he used the savings and disappeared to Tokyo if the rumors were true.
Satoshi はそれで消えたのか。
それはわからない。大石なんかはそう思ってるみたいだけどね。
Oishi had been slowly driven into a corner by the repulsive man's pig-headed pursuit.
確かに状況証拠は揃ってるけど、多分ケイちゃんの推理は外れだと思う。県内のどっかで捕まったろくでなしが犯行を自供したって言うし。
That was right. The deviant had confessed. The incident was solved.
そいつは本当にただの異常者で、Hinamizawaとは何の縁もない男だったって。
That just seems odd, though. It almost makes more sense if it was Satoshi.
もちろんサトシとも何の関係もない。だからそんな奴がサトシの身代わりになって嘘をついてくれたなんて到底思えないし。
You couldn't just arbitrarily decide that like that. You never know how humans are tied together. If that guy took the blame, then it was the perfect crime. Of course, if it was really a perfect crime, there would be no reason for Satoshi to vanish.
それに、サトシには逃亡資金なんてなかったと思う。サトシが預金を下ろした日、これは誰に言っても信じてくれないんだけど、サトコのために買うと言ってたぬいぐるみが、売れてショーケースからなくなってたの。
ああ。
きっと、サトシが買ったに違いない。
ちょっと待てよ。逃走資金に使わないで、ぬいぐるみを買うために使ったなら、サトコのところへ帰るはずだろ。
That implies he might have been vanished by like the town then.
ぬいぐるみを買って、それを届けもせずに蒸発するなんて。
だから、わからなくなっちゃうんだよ。まとまったお金があるならともかく、貯金を全部使っちゃったなら、サトシは無一文。お金もなく逃亡生活ができるほど、世の中は甘くないよ。
I didn't get it. After all that, I was understanding Satoshi less and less. The two of us fell silent. I couldn't remember how we even got on the topic.
ごめん。どこで話が脱線しちゃったんだか。サトコの件ね。安心していいよ。実はもうちゃんと誘ってあるんだよ。
え？本当かよ。
祭りの準備でみんなで神社に行った時さ、サトコを祭りに呼ぼうって話になったんだよ。それで集会所の電話でそのまま電話して誘ったんだ。おじのやつよそよそしくて勝手にしろみたいな感じだったけど、とりあえず OK はしてくれた。
Good.
明日みんなで待ち合わせしていくことになってるんだよ。安心した？サトシ。
Don't do that.
バカ。俺はサトシじゃないって。
I was a little relieved. I hadn't needed to make the phone call. Satoko had already been invited to the festival. And not in a way that smelled of blood, a way to leave her uncle alone to create time for me to kill him. They purely wanted Satoko to enjoy herself, so they invited her. In the end, it was the same, but I was happy for the slight difference.
すまないな。俺が電話をするまでもなかった。昨日にしろ今日にしろ。変な話ばかりしてすまないな。忘れてくれ。
こっちこそ本当に申し訳ない。柄にもなく取り乱しちゃって本当にごめん。
We apologized to each other for a little bit.
じゃあ俺はこれで失礼するな。おやすみ。
何の用事？
As if interrupting our parting words, Mion struck straight where it hurt.
それもまたサトシと同じように言えない？
バカ。だから俺は サトシじゃないって言ってるだろ。
そんなのは分かってるよ。
You're still not gonna say anything, though. I deflected her with a response that wasn't really an answer. Mion didn't hound me anymore after that.
じゃあ今度こそおやすみな。
どうしてケイちゃんがサトシ君と全く同じ電話をしてきたのかわからないけれど。なんでもない。ごめんね。おやすみ。
切るぞ。
Click. God, that's awkward. Satoshi Hojo. Just who are you? I scorned you as a coward who ran away abandoning his sister. I always thought you didn't have the right to call yourself her Nini, but now I didn't know what to think. Oyashiro-sama's curse on the 4th year, her aunt's death and Satoshi's disappearance. And now, me, trying to carry out Oyashiro-sama's curse on the 5th. Oddly enough, what was I going to do? Overlapped perfectly with Satoshi the day before the curse. No, that wasn't at all. If we start back from Satoko being abused, then I'd be overlapping with Satoshi for days already. When I talked with Mion before, she asked me if I was Satoshi. If that were the first impression a third player like Mion got, then it was probably true. Then, as Satoshi had accomplished, I would succeed in the murder. But that was the extent of which we overlapped. I was far calmer than Satoshi and more calculating. I could actually grow calmer and more enthusiastic I became. That's why I wouldn't follow in Satoshi's footsteps. I would snap him cleanly out of the world and then get our peaceful life back. Maybe Satoshi hadn't been with me ever since I chose to use Satoshi's bat as my weapon. No, maybe even longer than that. When I decided to be her Nini, maybe Satoshi had been residing within me then too. Satoshi. Were you really a coward? Or are you the true Nini even now, the kind worthy of Satoko's love? I'd never met him, never spoke to him, didn't even know his face, and yet I felt so connected to him, and never felt that way before. Interesting. This brings lots of interesting questions to mind, I think. Oh, it's gonna be a spicy episode next time. I have a feeling we're at the end for this chapter. Yep. None in the Housewife murder case. Oh boy. Major choice without looking back, and it's called Possessed. Oh, lovely. Alright, let's read the last tip for today. For the attention of those in the Housewife slaughter incident case. July 1982. Okonomiya Police Station, 1st Investigation Division. Chief Takasugi. Blank Prefecture Police Headquarters of the Eradication of Drug-Related Crime. Shishibone Branch held. Regarding incident, blank, designated as an undercover investigation. This message is to inform you that the section of the testimony record of an incident under the police headquarters jurisdiction has been found. That is thought to be related to the undercover investigation of the incident in question, Okonomiya Police Station X, Hinamizawa Village Housewife Slaughter Incident. During investigation of suspect blank, who was arrested for possession of illegal drugs, there was testimony alluding to the crime in question. It became clear that the content contained information that only the perpetrator could have known. Therefore, we are prepared to share this record of testimony with you, duplicate attached. If this testimonial is to be believed, then there is extremely high chance that the suspect was the perpetrator of the incident in question. In addition, on receiving this testimony, the head investigator on the case inquired as to the incident with Okonomiya Police Station. But the responsible party at Okonomiya Police Station misunderstood, and in compliance with the designation of the undercover investigation by executive order from Prefectural Police Headquarters on July 1st, 1982, General Admission B-112. They did not explain the incident's existence to the head investigator as they should have. Because of this, the head investigator did not realize the importance of the testimony as it related to the case in question. As a result, was negligent when combing the scene. We apologize for having effectively ignored it until now. In addition, there's a postscript stating the suspect blank died while in confinement yesterday on X/XX. Interesting. That's so weird. I don't know what to expect here. Alright, so, thoughts on the matter. I think we are walking in the footsteps of Satoshi. Part of me thinks that Satoshi might have been vanished by the curse. Because here's the thing. He probably killed his uncle, but was vanished because of his role in it, right? But then why would this other person confess having had knowledge of the crime? Unless that was Satoshi, and because he was in a different prefecture, they didn't associate him, or they didn't confirm his identity for some reason. I don't know. It's just odd. But that could have been Satoshi. Like, I don't know. Beyond recognition. I just don't get it. There's a lot hanging in the air. It just doesn't quite make sense or add up, and I'm not sure how I feel about it all. But tomorrow's the day, or at least, well, the episode recording-wise will be the next week. I know it's definitely going to be on the shorter end too, but come on, that's a perfect place to end it. We've got a plan. Now we can move forward. Oh, it's going to be scary, though, trying to make this happen. I don't know what to expect. I'm really, really nervous about it, honestly. Like, I don't see it going very well. And I don't think Keichii getting away with it. Not really. There's too many places where this plan could backfire. Heck, even the idea of ambushing him, like, while it's a good idea, being able to guarantee somebody's going to be in a designated position is pretty difficult. And if he's on a motorcycle, how's he supposed to stop him? I just don't know. There's a lot here that's like left open to chance. And it's still going to be odd that he doesn't show up to Watanagashi. People are probably going to notice that. I don't know. There's still so many holes, I think, to this whole plan. I'm not sure what to expect with it. So I guess we'll just have to see, but I don't feel like confident. I don't feel confident it's going to be okay. I am really enjoying some of this perspective of like through the eyes of the cursed and like what the implications are. Because it's still not being super definitive, but it's definitely sending lots of signals and indications that there's something else going on here. And I love that. I haven't been on Team Curse this entire time, but this is the first time it starts feeling like it might be a real thing. So it's really interesting. All right. You got me, game. I'm all for it. Let's see what happens next week. But we'll save that for next time. Thank you so much for joining me. Hope you enjoy yourselves and enjoyed this episode. Especially if you're a patron and member, I really appreciate you continuing to support the channel. It means the world to me, and I just want to make sure I keep making content for you that you find appealing and interesting. Thank you so much. Hopefully by the end of this week, I'll have caught up with my sleep and my work schedule won't be as back crap crazy as it's been these past 2 weeks. There's so much going on in life right now. Good stuff, but it's just stuff. Anyway, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. Hopefully you have a great rest of your day. And until the next video you're watching me, I hope to see me in next. I'll see you there.